Hi, Gabby from Ray Studios here, and today I'm gonna be reviewing the TTartisan's 11mm f2.8 fisheye lens. So the presentation isn't anything special. As a matter of fact, it looks rather cheap. It's just that. Some cheap styrofoam, cardboard box, a bag. But then when you find the lens, that's where you find that there is nothing cheap about this lens. I mean, it's very well built. The entire lens is made of metal. So we can see it has a metal mount, it has a metal cap, and the whole body is made out of metal, including the lens hood. Now, the lens hood, even though it's very small, very short, it does offer a certain level of protection. So I can put it flat on the table and the lens won't touch the table because it's being protected by the hood. Something quite remarkable here that I like to mention is this metal cap. I have seen many metal caps before, but this one in particular is probably the best metal cap I have ever held in my hand. It feels really good. It's almost like a pleasure just to put it in and take it back up. And then I realized that the reason why is that is because the entire inside of the cap, well, not the inside, but just this part, it has some kind of like another material that is soft, where you can touch it. And that's something that you only get with premium lenses. And that makes the fit really good. So definitely the best cap, metal or plastic that I ever have on any lens. Very remarkable that they did that at this price tag, because this lens is really not an expensive lens. But you can see that I'm not saying cheap, because there is nothing cheap about this lens. It's actually very well built. I gotta say, besides being all metal, it feels really good. So the focusing ring, it is very smooth, but there is a fine amount of resistance to it, something that I really like. If you follow this channel, you see that I have reviewed many minor lenses. I reviewed pretty much all of the lenses from TTartisan. I'm on my way to review all of the Brighton Star. I have reviewed a few legacy lenses and some weird lenses that you can't really find anymore. But this one probably have the nicest focus ring and aperture ring, which by the way is the click. So very helpful for shooting videos. Now, that being said, there is another little thing that I like to remark, and I have experienced that sometimes when I try to use the scale on the lens, so all these numbers that you see here, that sometimes with some lenses from Brighton Star, it happened as well with TTartisan. I say this, maybe that happened because I tend to get early release lenses. So the lenses, like before they go into mass production, I get a copy of that. The company send me these lenses. So the reason why this might happen is that, but sometimes the scale is not accurate at all. I did mention that on the Brighton Star 7.5mm f2.8, where the scale was not accurate, and I bring that to bring the attention to the company, let them know, and they said they're gonna fix it. In this particular case, it's extremely accurate, very easy to use. As a matter of fact, I can focus just looking at the scale, so I know what I'm shooting, and I look at the scale and I know what I'm doing. It's so easy to operate. I really like the usability on this lens. Now, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put this away, and I'm gonna mount it on my Canon EOS R, so I give you more or less an idea of how it looks like. By the way, this lens comes available in RF mount, E mount for the Sony A7 series of cameras, and is also available in Nikon Z, depending on where you are. You might pronounce it a little bit different, but yeah, so it is obviously a full frame lens. You can also mount it, for example, if you get the E-mount version, in cameras like the Sony a6400, the one is shooting me right now. So you can see that it's not a big lens. There is a bit of weight to it, and it makes absolutely perfect balance with my Canon EOS R, and it's super duper easy to use. That's because it's a fisheye lens, means if you put the focus into infinite, well, pretty much everything is going to be on focus, unless it's something really close. Now, if you need to shoot to something very close, you can use the scale, since the things that you're going to be shooting that is close. For example, right now, the camera in front of me is somewhere around 1 meter. I get the scale into 1 meter, and that's it. It's really easy to use a fully manual lens when it's fisheye. So the wider the lens, it gets easier to use the focusing and the aperture. So if you're afraid to use a fully manual lens, this will be the best kind of lens that you can start getting into fully manual lenses, and it's a lot of fun to use. Now, one thing to remark here is the front element is massive, kind of easy to scratch it if you're not being careful. So, be careful, because there is nothing you can put. You cannot take UV filters or any kind of filters because it's a fisheye. But that being said, let's talk about the image quality. So I've been using this lens for about 3 weeks. I took it to my trip to Thailand and I did quite a few pictures there. I gotta say, a fisheye lens is a lens for people with a lot of creativity. So you can imagine that you're gonna take pictures in which there is gonna be distortion, obviously, as it is with a fisheye lens. But I gotta say that this lens is kind of very versatile, because you could actually get rid of some of the distortion by cropping in and adjusting in Lightroom or Photoshop. And then what you end up is with an ultra wide angle lens. And the quality on this lens is actually really holding up to some professional lenses from Canon or some other brands. I was very impressed, to be honest. The center of the image, always, even wide open, is razor sharp. It is when it gets to the corners that you will see a little bit of softness, but that's to be expected from a fisheye lens. That's a common thing. There is also some chromatic aberration, green and purple chromatic aberration, but that only creeps in high contrast images and only around the corners, especially when you're wide open. As soon as you start stopping down, both you're gonna gain sharpness and you're also gonna be getting rid of that chromatic aberration. That being said, it's super easy to correct chromatic aberration in Lightroom or Photoshop. I tend to use Lightroom a lot more, but yeah, I didn't have major problems. To be able to see that chromatic aberration, I really have to zoom in into the corners a lot, and I don't want to do that anymore on my videos, so it's like pixel peeping and kind of like zooming like 400%. So I just want you to see the samples as I shoot them, and if you're seeing the nice pictures, well, that's the whole point of this lens, to take nice pictures. It can also be used for video. So I haven't shot any videos because I didn't have that much time with the lens, but I can see myself shooting a lot of videos with this lens. I did shot a few blogging samples, because I think being so wide, it is quite an advantage for bloggers. You could be using this for blogging. So it doesn't have image stabilization, but here we go with some blogging samples. Just take a look by yourself and tell me what you think. Alright, so this is how blogging with the TTartisan's 11mm f2.8 looks like. I'm holding the camera really close to my face. That's why I'm not using any microphone, because I think the inbuilt microphone will do just fine, since I'm holding the camera so close. Let me switch hands, because I don't know how people blog with these big cameras. They're heavy. Maybe I'm just not used to blogging. I used to have the camera on a tripod all the time. By the way, I'm walking pretty fast on a not very even ground, so it might be a little bit shaky, I don't know. I have a stabilization turned on, so basically in 1080p, with the stabilization on, it's like a 1.1 crop, which is still pretty wide, and I don't feel like we're getting much of this fish eye distortion right now. I mean, you can see a little bit of distortion, but really, to be honest, it ain't much. I'm looking here at the screen and looking good for blogging. This is what you want. You want really wide, so you can give context of where you are. By the way, I'm right downstairs from my home. Not many people now because it's actually raining. Well, it's not raining, but it's about to rain. It's like I can start to feel the drops falling on my face. So make sure to hit that like button, guys. I'm doing a sacrifice here, walking under the rain. But yeah, I really like the way this looks. Let me stop down a little bit, make it darker. So that's the thing about with manual lenses. You're gonna be blogging, you could have the ISO set to auto, maybe the f-stop a little bit higher, that would be fine. So you changing the light, the camera will adjust automatically. I like to shoot fully manual, but you know, that's up to you. The other thing is, like, of course, this is a manual focal lens, and it must be scary for someone to block with a fully manual lens. But that being said, let's say, for example, I want to shoot something in front of me, and when I'm shooting, it's very close to me, like about the same distance. The focus doesn't have to change, and if something that is, let's say, a meter or farther, it's just focus to infinite. So, for example, I give you a quick example here. I want to show you guys around, so I quickly change to infinite, and I'm pretty sure all of that's gonna be on focus. And as I switch around, I change very quickly into 0.5, which is the distance that I have now from the lens. Very easy. I was hoping that I was all the time in focus during that whole changing the angle and everything. So because it's very simple, you just set it to 0.5 for you, infinite for anything else, and that will work 90% of the time. So the focusing, it isn't a big issue, to be honest. The same with the aperture, and you can set the ISO to automatic. So this could be potentially a really good vlogging setup. Canon EOS R and the TTartisan's 11mm f2.8. In case you wonder, let's take a look at how it looks in 4K. Alright, so this is how the 4K looks like. I'm walking slowly now, so you get an idea of what the stabilization is gonna look like. Because it's now not so wide anymore. I mean, it's supposed to be a fisheye lens, but this looks more like a 24 because of the massive crop we have in 4K with the Canon EOS R. So this is like 1.73 crop when you switch to 4K. Plus, I have a stabilization turned on, which makes it almost like a 1.9 crop. So it's almost like a micro four sensor camera. It makes it just the tiny little bit center of the sensor. But because this lens is just so wide, it's so incredibly wide that even with such a massive crop, I can still vlog. I'm fine to vlog. I mean, you can see me, and you can see everything basically. It's pretty good. Now, one thing to remark about this is you're getting really good quality, and you don't get that fish eye effect. Like, it's not distorted anymore. It's like it really looks like a 24mm. So back to studio. So there you go. You could be using this for vlogging. I would recommend not to walk too much, since the stabilization, now that I reviewed the footage, is a little bit shaky. I mean, the digital stabilization in combined with this lens is not great. Also, I'm not much of a vlogger. I don't vlog much. I'm not used to it. I don't know how to hold the camera well. So take that little vlogging sample with a pinch of salt, since I'm not particularly a vlogger. So I'm for sure, I would recommend this for vlogging as well, for video and for photography. And to be honest, when it comes to the image quality, the build quality, I gotta say I'm very, very surprised, because this lens, you can find it as cheap as $220 if I'm not mistaken. I will put in some Amazon links. They're not affiliate, just buy whatever you want to buy, I don't care. But yeah, it's incredible affordable. And yet again, I can't say cheap, because both image quality and the build quality, they're nothing but cheap. They're like, actually they feel very, very premium, especially the build quality. They pay attention to little details, like the cap that I really like. The entire lens feels so good. It's a lens that you buy for a lifetime. It's built like a tank. The image quality is really, really good. I'm very happy with it. As a matter of fact, I found out to be too sharp, if any kind of a special thing to remark about it. There are some flaws, like in any lens, like corners are going to be soft. It's a fisheye lens, especially when you're wide open. You stop it down, you're going to get a lot more sharpness. That softness gets pushed more and more into the corners. There is a little bit of chromatic aberration. Something remarkable is also the lens flare. I haven't noticed much lens flare. I haven't noticed much vignetting. Of course, when it's wide open, you will see some vignetting, but as soon as you stop it down, vignetting tends to go away very quickly, like at f4. Yeah, that's a really, really fantastic lens. I really like it, and I'm really looking forward to see what TTartisan is gonna do next, because if they started out with something like this, and at this price of $220, very impressive. I gotta say, very impressive. Hope you like this video, and if you like it, please make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Share it with your friends, give me a like and subscribe and all that good stuff that will help me somehow. This is Gabby from Ray Studios, and I'll catch you up in the next video.